You know what I've been noticing a lot these days, especially, which is very time, what's the word, appropriate, because we're at the beginning of 2024 and you see a lot of people having those New Year's resolutions, which we talked about in an earlier podcast. And we talk about how most people give up their New Year's resolution. And I would say, 9% make it through the year sticking to their New Year's resolution. Right. Just 9%.
All right.
So a lot of people, they don't give up in the middle part. They don't give up towards the end. They normally give up their New Year's resolution or sticking to that New Year's resolution at the very beginning. And that is kind of very appropriate for not just New Year's resolutions, but for life in general. Because when we start things, not us, but when most people start things, they tend to get excited at the very beginning or pre the actual start of whatever they plan to do. And then a few days go by and they say, you know what, fuck it, I quit. So this is a kind of virality of a sickness, giving up too soon, like the common cold. You have to take or the flu, you have to take a vaccine or a shot or something like that, a booster every year to try to curb this. And just like that, we have to start kind of helping people stick things out, because this is a common thing around the world for people, is that they give up way too soon. So Jose, when we see these things or hear about these things of people giving up too soon, I think that we had a previous conversation about gold digging, and you made a great analogy or referenced a great analogy by a well-known author that you and I both like to talk about and gain knowledge from. So do you want to give the gold ore example or gold ore analogy that we discussed? I think it would be very lucrative and important for our audience to hear this.
Right. Absolutely. And this is a repeating analogy because it is a good analogy. So it's the 3 feet from gold analogy from Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
It's an oldie but goldie.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
So essentially the way the analogy works is during the gold rush, there's a young man who's mining for gold, and he's doing it for months. And he decided to quit. And the reason he decided to quit is because he struck essentially you have a gold ore, and then there is a river that stems from that ore. And when you hit components of the river, then you have to look for the actual ore because it's located upstream, downstream, or at a separate point in time. And that's when you actually strike gold. But he did not hit the ore. And after digging and digging and digging, he gave up.
Right.
So he sold all of his equipment to a junk man. However, that junk man sought counsel prior to beginning to dig. So he found experts and engineers who could help him calculate where the ore was. And he found out that the ore was just 3 feet from where the previous miner had stopped. All this to say, you gave up too soon.
Right.
In looking for the gold. It was right there, 3 feet away. It's that picture of the 2 guys digging, and there's the guy who strikes gold, and there's the guy who literally just turned around at the end because he said, fuck this, I don't want to deal with this.
Right.
And I think what is a good example that you see, especially right now, day to day, in terms of New Year's resolutions or beginning of a year? What's an example of this?
So, you know what? Since we're not scared here, and since we're not liars, we're transparent with what we have going on, I would like to use myself as an example, to be honest with you.
Go for it.
And we're not perfect. We deal with the same things everyone else deals with. So we wanted to change our workout plans and how we worked out. And we, for the last, I don't know how many months, have been trying to lean out, really get as lean and shredded as possible,
3-4
which was
months.
a success, 4 months. So that was a success. So now we were like, hey, look, we want to bulk up a little bit. But it was very interesting. Well, of course, we both said yes, and we wanted to go ahead and try to bulk up. But we had a conversation not too long ago, actually, and going from shredded to a bigger kind of frame is something that you kind of have to get used to, and something that I'm getting used to. So when we said, hey, we're going to bulk up, it's not only a change in how we work out, but also a change in how we eat as well. So as that has progressed over the last week or so, I've been eating more and being very conscious about how much I eat, and trying to eat, twice a day as opposed to once a day with the fasting that I was doing and all of that. And I went to the gym a couple times, and I felt like I was, losing my abs a little bit. So as that happened, and I started to notice that damn near every time that I would think about it, I'm like, man, I don't want to lose my abs. I work so hard for these abs, I don't want to lose. So I text Jose and be like, man, can we incorporate, a fast or something like that so I can just lean out a little bit, or can I cut down calories and whatnot and all that stuff? And this was less than, if not a week into the changing of the workout routine. So I essentially was giving up what we said that we were going to stick to and try to follow for an extended period of time, all because the success that I got before with the previous workout method, I felt like I was losing that, with this new workout method. So basically holding on to the past, holding on to old things as baggage, as opposed to letting it go and saying, hey, look, that was in the past. Now we're going to do it this way. And again, it was just a week. So for me to say, hey, look, let's change this, let's mitigate this, blah, 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 instead of sticking to what we set out to do, was essentially giving up. So again, this is something that we all do with, and this is something that I do with. But that is a real life example that not only we see, but I'm going through right now, is trying to kind of get used to this new way of doing things and sticking to it, because it's a kind of large change to what we've been doing for the last 4-6 months or whatever.
Right.
So
and
that is a good example, I feel like.
And that's because you built such a strong habit.
Right.
Not only literally, but in your mind.
Right. Because the way for me to kind of cope in a sense, or get through the workouts or get through the cutting process, was the moment I would see some or feel a little bloated or feel a little kind of large, fast.
Yeah.
And though technically that's a good thing to do, as opposed to just stuff your face some more or do some shit that's non-productive.
Or just delude yourself into believing that it's not there.
Correct. So it wasn't necessarily unhealthy. However, it wasn't what we said that we were going to set out and do. So for me, say that I didn't follow this through and I stopped and we changed how we did shit a week in, the results that we would get X amount of months out would not be the same. And Jose, you actually said some numbers that I think would be good for them to hear too, because I suggested, I was like, hey, why don't I just decrease my calorie intake by just 200 calories a day?
Right.
Now, if I look in my pantry right here, these crackers, just 6 crackers, is 190 calories. So essentially, it would just mean me not eating this every day. I can eat whatever else that I was planning on eating and just not eat 190 calories or 200 calories. So just cutting this out of my daily, routine. Now, what does that add up to as far as the amount of calories that I would miss, and also the amount of grams of protein that I would miss if I did do that?
Right. So one thing that we often discount is the difference between a macro change and a micro change. So some people might look at that 190 calories and say, that's not a lot, that's okay. But let's round up, let's make it 200 calories. So if you drop 200 calories in a week, and mind you, what we're trying to do is be at a caloric surplus. So quick info, if you're trying to put on muscle mass or a little bit of, to put on muscle mass, you require a little bit of a surplus, whether that be in protein and as well as a little bit of calories. Right. And if you fail to do that, then essentially you're burning more than you're adding, which means essentially you're not giving your body anything to build on top of what it already has. So we're at a surplus, a slight surplus, and Austin asked to drop 200 calories, which you would say, that doesn't sound like a big number, but that's 1,400 calories in a week, which accounts to 4,000 calories in a month, which if you're a big eater, that's a day or a day and a half worth of eating per month. And then you multiply that across a series of months. And so what I suggested is rather than dropping the 200, let's make a micro change, because dropping 200 calories is a macro change. You're changing a big thing within the scale. So how about instead of those crackers, you substitute it for 200 grams of protein, 200 calories worth of protein. And so running the numbers, that's essentially 531 grams of protein per month if you were eating 200 calories of protein additionally per day, or substituting 200 calories per day from carbs or snack to protein. And that's just raw 85-15 beef. Right. And so that adds to about 1,600 grams of protein per month. Right. Sorry, for a series of 3 months. Imagine what your body can do with 1,600 grams of protein additional to what you're already getting over the course of 3 months. Right. So that's when it becomes a long game as opposed to a short game. That is taking a macro change and turning it into a micro change. So rather than giving up, it's adjusting and tweaking the factors within. And also, I think a component of this is making a long-term decision based on a short-term outcome. Right. Because oftentimes we say, my abs are gone, I'm not going to bulk anymore. But you don't know why they're gone. You haven't troubleshooted. You don't have enough data points. You don't have enough time on the horizon to say, this is the reason, therefore I'm going to remove this. Because it could simply be, hey, my sleep was bad, my water retention's high because I had a lot of salt, or maybe I drank last night, or maybe I had a lot of sugar and I'm getting that inflammation associated with sugar. It could be a whole variety of things.
Now, which is funny, so we can get into this a little bit. So not only did I want to change or stop, well, not necessarily stop, but change the routine within a week. That's important, but an even bigger thing that I think we should focus on, or that I should focus on as well, is the reason why that I wanted to do that. And again, I mentioned, I wanted to keep my abs and all that stuff, but what was the real reason why that I was not wanting to stay consistent with this? And, when we go to the gym, we work out, have our shirts off, like to go around the gym, and, you like to show off what you built, and that might be a little pride, that might be a little ego that, I have. So we like to be able to go around and, not only we know that we have this physique, but also show off that we have this physique because we work so hard for it. So for us to put in this work on our individual bodies, and we build the bodies that we wanted to have, and we have the abs that we wanted to have when we initially didn't have any, to see that transpire over a span of 6 months, and then in a span of what it feels like that, your abs don't look as toned. And of course, not saying that they're completely gone, they're there, but just not as toned as usual. It's like, nah, I don't like this. I want to look good. I want to, still be seen as, that guy, and still go in the gym, and people were like, wow, you guys look shredded. Like, you guys look amazing type. I still want those same kind of comments because we've built it up and we built each other up to the point to where like we've gotten to this point. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think on this podcast, just talking it out, the pride and the ego was a big thing for me that made me want to go back instead of moving forward, because again, we built up this thing, which is us, mm-hmm. which is our bodies.
Something we're very proud of.
Something we're very proud of. So for that to look like it's decaying or going backwards in any sense, it was just like a fuck no. And we're also, or at least I'm also venturing in the realm of kind of uncharted territory because bulking, I've never was so meticulous about every calorie that I'm eating, how much protein I'm getting, making sure I eat this amount a day, all that, plus 2 workouts a day, all that shit. I've never been that meticulous about all that stuff. So especially when it comes to, gaining weight as opposed to losing it, or not just gaining, bigger biceps or bigger shoulders, but gaining weight all over, gaining muscle all over. So losing the body that I have to transition into that uncharted territory is kind of also, what's the word? I don't want to say scary, but it's
unknown. You're walking through uncharted waters.
Right. So it's a little bit anxious kind of.
Well, it's uncomfortable. And we tend to stray away from anything that's grinding our gears. Because I don't want to say that it provides anxiety or that it doesn't keep you up at night, but it's something that you'd rather not do. It's like going outside in the cold. It doesn't scare you. It's not intimidating, but you're simply like, hey, this is uncomfortable. I'm not built for the cold. I don't want to be in the cold, period. It's one of those things that I believe, at least.
Right. So this has just been an interesting thing for me to be a part of and go through it myself. So,
and I think that this is actually a perfect example of how that pride and ego can motivate you, but it can also be a double-edged sword.
Right.
And I actually want to refer to Chris Williamson's 3-Minute Monday newsletter. Shout out to the Modern Wisdom Podcast. Shout out to Chris Williamson, 3-Minute Monday newsletter. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. At this point in the video, I'm going to link his channel so that you can subscribe to him, because I know how to do that now.
Yeah.
So we've referred to this. We actually have a podcast on this. Hang on.
Episode 48.
No. That's an Alex Hormozy one.
Oh.
This is the 2-horse chariot.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I can find it.
I'll find it.
It's the episode 20, approximately 5 inches. It's the 5 feet. My bad. Hold on. Relax. That's a pause. But it's the 4 foot, 8.5 Roman war horse chariot analogy. I'm not going to go through the entire analogy, but all you need to know is that essentially what limited arguably the most advanced development in human history, aka the dry fuel propulsion systems for rockets to go into space, was a 4 foot 8.5 limitation of the arse width of 2 Roman war horses. If you want to know, episode 20 of the AM Club podcast. Essentially, this is Chris's conclusion. The tools that get you from 0 to 50 are not the same ones that get you from 50 to 90 or 90 to 95.
Right.
And this is to say that what helps us get to a certain point can eventually limit us.
Right.
And we always have to adapt. We have to be flexible. There are things that we always have to change. And something that gets us, for example, lean, the mindset, the diet, the exercise is not what's going to get us bigger and stronger, because they're complete opposites.
Right.
And so you have to find a way to adjust and to tweak things. And the problem with a lot of times, if you're still using ego and pride as motivators, they'll limit you, because then you're going to say, you know what? I want to still be lean. I want to still have that super, super, super defined 6-pack. And you can, but it's going to cost you.
Right.
Because you're always going to have to pay the price, which is a little bit of foreshadowing to the next podcast. But I think that that's where a quote from Alex Hormozy, make the action the goal, not the outcome, which is our episode number 48 of the AM Club podcast. I think that focusing on the physique, the final physique, looking at the abs, it's great to look at the outcome, but when you focus and hyperfixate on the outcome, you start forgetting the actions that lead to the outcome. How about you break that down for us a little bit, if you would like? If not, if there's something else on your mind, please.
Well, just to touch on that a little bit. So for us, we have to live this, because if you don't have your own business or your own thing that you're working on, it's going to be a little bit harder to kind of wrap your head around. But if you do, you know that if you are just focusing on the goal, which you could say is to get rich for some of you, that's the goal, right? And you're just focusing on that, and you're not meticulous about every little step that's going up to that point, you're going to veer off track, because there's a lot of steps from point A to Z, which is rich. And a lot of people just say, yeah, fuck all those other letters that are in between A and Z. Let's just try to figure out, Z. No.
Yeah, good luck.
All those little letters are important for you to get to the outcome. You have to go through all those letters to get to Z in the first place. So you have to make every little action that you take the goal every day, going up to the final day where you get rich, or not the final day, but the big day where you do get rich, or you hit that amount of money that you're trying to get, or whatever. You have to make every day leading up to that the goal, as opposed to the main outcome. Because if you focus on being disciplined just today and say, hey, look, I'm going to focus on being disciplined today so I can make myself a bigger and better man in the future. And then the next day you say, hey, I'm going to focus on being disciplined today, and so on and so forth. By the time you put your head up and realize, like, shit, man, I'm the person that I always wanted to become. You know why? Because you focused on the action. You focused on the little step in between the outcome. So you were able to get that. And I wanted to say this one thing that I was thinking about while you were talking as well, because we mentioned this before. But when we talk about giving up too soon and people giving up too soon, Mr. Beast had something very kind of monumental that I always kind of think about and kind of hold on to throughout the day, damn near every day, because we're in this content space. So people would come up to him asking, hey, how do I grow my channel? How do I grow my channel? All that stuff. Well, like, give me a quick tip. Give me, some secret shit that most people don't know. And he would tell them, hey, come back and talk to me after you have done 100 pieces of content.
100 videos.
100 videos.
Because you can repurpose shitty content.
So 100 individual videos that are not like the other, 100 videos, and then come back and talk to me. Because, and also, by the way, most people would never come back and talk to him because of that. They gave up too soon because they saw that 100, or they heard that 100, and they're like, man, that's a lot. Yeah, I don't know if I could do that. I'll do one or two. It's like, wow, I've only done 2. I have 98 more. I'm not doing that. Which
is funny, because the champion mindset is, I only have to do 100 before I get the gold.
Right.
It's not, oh man, I have to do 100. It's, I only need to do 100.
Shit, at least he gave you a number, because he could have just said, yeah, just put out as much content as you can. You may not even know the specific number. And not saying even if you did post 100 videos or whatnot, that would work, because it's probably not.
Well, and we talked about this in the past. You got to be aware while you're doing it. But
right.
Go ahead.
Right. But I just always think that's interesting, because a lot of people hear, certain things and like, man, that's pretty difficult. Yeah, I don't know if I could do that. Or they try and they're like, wow, this is pretty hard, and I'm only on, 2 of 100. how the fuck am I supposed to do the rest? But you don't know, again, like the person digging away at that wall, trying to get the treasure, trying to get the gold. You may not know how close you are to striking the gold if you quit and give up. So for us, for instance, we have put out upwards of 300 plus videos. I think it's like 370 something right now.
Right. In terms of podcasts we've put out, this is the 77th, but we have short form content. We have medium form content. Let me pull it up real quick. Just by the way, we're at 111 subscribers, just so you know. So
shout out y'all. That's a great number.
While we were before we came on, we were at 110, right. And then within 30 minutes now we're at 111, and we've total posted 394 videos. 394 videos, and almost 400. And let me give you a little caveat here and say that not all of them were great, because this is early on. We were just figuring shit out. We were chopping up shitty podcasts and making them into even shittier shorts. And so I stand there, and I think you do too, with pride, saying we've done the shit shitty and we've done the shit better, and we're going to do the shit even better, to the point where shit looks great and great stuff looks even more phenomenal. And but that's where we're going.
What if we stopped at the shitty content and said, man, this is not good. Man, fuck this. We're not going to continue doing this. What would have happened?
And don't get me wrong. There are moments where we've produced shitty content and been like, man, I don't want to post this. I don't want the world to see this.
Right.
But as you always say, what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
Who's going to see this? Whose opinion is going to matter when we succeed?
And if you can't say that you want to have success, have wealth, have all this notoriety in public, and not be willing to fail in public. So for us, again, I always say, like, you know, how bad can it get? What's the worst outcome that could potentially happen? Like, how bad is it if, you know, we post this shit and everybody says you guys fucking suck? Okay, keep posting. Something we learn. So we wouldn't be able to get to this point. We wouldn't have the amount of subscribers that we have. Lovely subscribers. Thank you all so much. We wouldn't be able to make it to this point if we gave up. And if somebody's watching this years later and we're exactly where we thought we would be, what would happen if we gave up today? So we don't know how shit is going to go. However, we do know that if you stay consistent and you keep giving content, well, in this particular space, you keep pushing out content and you keep optimizing that content to get continuously better and better, and you gain traction. You never know when that moment is where that 2 or whatever to the second power is going to exponentially rise up. We always talk about an exponential curve of how things are going. Initially on, when you do things to the power of 2, it's not that big of a difference. But the more you get up in number, it starts to increase, and then you're out of there.
Well, the funny thing is we've already seen that.
Right, we have.
We made these changes in October.
Right.
Well, late September, early October. And we literally see October, November, December.
Right.
So it's like we have analytical proof and evidence that what we say is unequivocally true.
Right.
And it's just a matter of, can you succeed? Can you break through?
Right.
Like if I'm talking to somebody and I'm showing them our analytics, and they'll look at a video and be like, man, you only have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 likes. And I'll show them views. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. And it's like, what you don't see is where the success is. The magic is what you can't see. You can't see the potential that's building, because before we'd have 2 or 3 likes, but maybe 10, 50 views.
Right.
And now you have 10, 15, 20 likes and thousands of views.
Right.
And so that viewership just goes up and up and up and up and up. Your quality is going up and people are recognizing that. The quality of content that you're putting out, people are vibing with and jiving with, because I like to think about it as it's like school. And I know everybody has differing opinions on school, but let's say education, or let's say the acquisition of a skill. The more you practice, the better you'll become if you know and if you're perspicacious enough to pay attention to the details on how to improve. If you're putting up shots in the gym and you're not tweaking your shot and tweaking your timing and tweaking your tempo, then you're never going to get better. But if you're tweaking every component and you're practicing, you will always improve. There's no case where it's not going to happen. So you're just acquiring a skill, and you have to be aggressively patient. You have to understand that it's going to take a lot of time. You're going to fuck up more than you succeed. But when you succeed, the payout, the bounty, the positives that you get is going to far outweigh any negative that you've ever had. And though you can't see it, you have to delude yourself into believing it.
And I would say the vast majority of people that make it, or you see them and you deem them as, you know, the people that have made it, they have all the shit that you want, right? I would say about 90% that's on the low end are the people that just stuck it out. They may not have been the smartest. They may not have been the fastest. They may not have been the best speaker. They may not have been the best or the most attractive, whatever. But the one thing that they did do was stick it the fuck out. Because we all know, just like New Year's resolutions, most people, when shit gets tough or, you know, shit doesn't go how they're expecting it to, they quit. However, if you say, hey, look, no matter how this goes, I'm going to always strive to get better and continuously put out content or continuously do the thing that I know most people would have quit on weeks ago, months ago, whatever, the sky is the limit. And just like the sky is the limit for us, because we aren't going to quit. We're not. We're just built like that. We're stubborn. We're just stubborn.
It's not an option.
So for us and for you and for all of those people that have succeeded, having that one core characteristic, and of course you have to have more, but that one characteristic of just being perspicacious and being stubborn and not willing to give up is really going to be the main thing that puts you over the top, that gets you over the top, that separates you from the pack. Is because everybody else is going to quit when things get hard, but you're not.
The AM Club Podcast.
Signing out.
Mic check. The AM Club Podcast.